Good morning, dear Sangha. Today is March the 3rd, the year 2004, and we are in the Deer Park Monastery during our winter retreat. Today we begin to learn about the last 4 exercises the Buddha offered in the Sutra on the practice of mindfulness of breathing. And the first of the 4 is contemplation on impermanence. These methods of practice are very powerful, and if you know how to do it, you will be able to liberate yourself from your fear, your sorrow, your anger, your despair. It's very crucial, very deep within the Buddhist teaching and practice. Contemplating impermanence. Of course, we know what it means to be impermanent. But impermanence here is not just a description of reality, because many philosophers have already described reality as impermanent. Someone said that you cannot take a bath, swim twice in the same river, because the river the next moment will not be the same with the river at this moment. And you, the swimmer in the river, also will not be the same. In the East, in the West, the insight of impermanence has been expressed by many of our thinkers, of our philosophers and spiritual teachers. And we have no difficulty in accepting the truth of impermanence, because we know that nothing remains the same forever. So the teaching here does not repeat the statement that everything is impermanent. The teaching here is a method, a practice. And contemplating impermanence means you have to nourish, you have to maintain the insight of impermanence alive in every moment of your daily life. You keep the insight of impermanence alive. You maintain it alive. And that is the practice of samadhi. Samadhi is concentration. And samadhi translated into Chinese is đẳng trì. Đẳng means always like that, steady. Always there, very steady. Existing. And trì means to hold it, to keep it steady, to keep it existing. So when you accept the fact that things are impermanent, you can see the truth of impermanence, but after that you forget, and you live your life as if things are permanent. That is the problem. That is why the samadhi of impermanence is the practice of holding the inside of impermanence alive. while you walk, while you sit, while you look at things, when you think, when you speak, you are aware of the nature of impermanence. And if the insight is alive, well, your thinking will be correct thinking, right thinking. Your speech will be correct speech, right speech. And your action will always be right action. Because the insight of impermanence is kept alive during the time you think, during the time you speak, during the time you act. Breathing in, I'm aware that things are impermanent. The flower is impermanent. My beloved one is impermanent. I myself is impermanent. Deer Park is impermanent. The winter retreat is impermanent. And right away, something happened that I have to cherish what is there in this very moment. Otherwise, it will no longer be there. So, impermanence is not an idea that makes you cry, that gives you a pessimistic view of life. Impermanent is a kind of insight that helps you to cherish, to treasure what is wonderful, what is wondrous, that is there in the here and the now. If you are aware of impermanence, if you know that your beloved one is impermanent, you go home to yourself and you tell your beloved one, darling, let me look at you. I want to see your face. I want to see you clearly. I cherish your presence. I treasure your presence in this very moment. You see, impermanence is a foundation of happiness. You don't complain that things are impermanent, because the insight of impermanence helps you to live deeply every moment of your daily life. In the tale of Kiều, which is a very famous Vietnamese poem, Truyện Kiều, there are two sentences that I used to write in calligraphy. Bây giờ rõ mặt đôi ta. Bài giảng này là giảng cho các thượng tọa ở Bình Định sắp về Việt Nam. Bây giờ rõ mặt đôi ta, biết đâu rồi nữa. Chẳng là chiêm bao. In the story, the young lady asked the permission of the young man for her to look at him carefully. Let me look at you, she said. Because in this very moment, in the here and the now, bây means in this very moment, we have the opportunity to see each other's face, each other's presence. If you are not fully present, if you are not fully aware, you cannot really perceive the presence, recognize the presence of the other person. So you have to abandon the past, you have to abandon the future, you have to go home to yourself, and you have to become fully present, fully alive in order to do the work of reconnection. You recognize that your beloved one is really there, not as an illusion, not as a ghost, but a wonderful manifestation. Darling, let me look at you. And make sure that you are really there. And you need only one moment to internalize what is there. And without mindfulness and concentration, without smrti and samadhi, you cannot have prajna. You cannot get the insight, get the view, the vision of reality. In this very moment, we have an opportunity to look at each other's face. This is not is not just the face, but the reality. You have an opportunity to recognize, to perceive, to see the reality, the presence of each other. Because who knows, who knows, that all of this will become a dream tomorrow. Everything. If you are not alive in this very moment, if you do not perceive it in the here and the now, deeply with your awareness, your mindfulness and your concentration, and everything will become a dream, including your life, your stay on earth, on this planet. It will look like it has never happened, your presence on earth. Whether it is 15 years or 50 years or 100 years, it's just a dream. Dear Park, is it a dream or a reality? We are walking every day on the mountains of Deer Park. But do we feel the presence of Deer Park in every step and enjoy the Deer Park at every step? Deer Park is real or a dream. It depends not on Deer Park, it depends on you, it depends on I. If you are fully present, if you have concentration, if you are aware that everything is impermanent, and Deer Park will be there for you in the here and the now as a wonder. tomorrow or after tomorrow. What you see today, what you perceive today, will not be there. But you don't regret. You don't regret. Because you have really seen it. You have really touched it. You have really lived it deeply. And without the energy of mindfulness and concentration, you cannot do that. We have done a lot of preparation in order to make the winter retreat here possible. The Abbot, the Abbess, every brother and sister here have worked hard many months in order to prepare for the winter retreat to take place. The winter retreat in the Deer Park Monastery has become a reality. And we are in it. We have the possibility, the opportunity to touch it. But everyone knows that more than 2/3 of the retreat has gone. There were only less than 1 month, just a few weeks. The winter retreat is impermanent. The question is whether we enjoy it or not. If we enjoy the winter retreat, then we have nothing to regret later on. Because after the winter retreat, there will be a spring retreat. There was a gentleman in Great Britain who loves to speak about Buddhism to his daughter. He also spoke of impermanence, non-self, and so on. And he didn't really understand impermanence. He considers himself a Buddhist. He knows that impermanence and non-self are at the foundation of Buddhist teaching, but he did not really understand impermanence. So while he was speaking about impermanence to his daughter, he's kind of complaining that things are impermanent. He complained about impermanence. And his daughter stopped him and said, "Daddy, if things are not impermanent, how can your daughter grow up?" And that is true. Thanks to impermanence, that life is possible. If you sow a seed, if you plant a seed of corn, a grain of corn in the moist soil, and if the grain of corn remains the grain of corn forever and ever, there will never be a plant of corn, and you will never have ears of corn to eat. And that is why, instead of complaining about impermanence, you have to say, "Long live impermanence." Because thanks to impermanence, that life is possible. The seed has to sprout. The seed has to die in order for the sprout to be born, in order for the plant to come up, in order for the year of corn to take place. And that is why impermanence is the foundation of life. If things are not impermanent, and then there will be no hope. A dictator will always be there for several million of years, and the war will go on forever and ever. And that is why, since things are impermanent, we know that someday the dictator has to go and the war has to end. We have hope. So impermanence is not a pessimistic note in the song of life. And that's why, looking deeply into impermanence, we know that impermanence is the foundation of life. And if we can keep the insight of impermanence alive, and then we will be very wise. We know how to cherish life in the present moment. We will not fall into despair. We can always nourish hope. And we know what to do in order to change reality, so that there will be more beauty, more goodness, more brotherhood, more peace. If you are having a fight with your beloved one, if your beloved one just made you suffer, and if you want to punish her or him because she has dared to make you unhappy, and then the contemplation of impermanence will help you. You are fighting. You have the intention to say something. To punish her, to make her suffer. And suddenly you remember that you are a practitioner. You cannot do like that. You breathe in and you bring into yourself. You allow the insight of impermanence to be born in yourself. I have written a short gatha, short poem for you to use in this moment when you are having a fight and both of you are trying to punish each other. The practice is to close your eyes. Instead of shouting, instead of punishing, you close your eyes. You take a deep in-breath. And you recite the first line of the poem. There are only 4 lines and it's very short. Giận nhau trong tích môn. It means getting angry at each other, getting angry at each other, in the hysterical dimension. Dần nhau trong tích môn. Nhắm mắt nhìn mai sau. I close my eyes. And visualize the future. Dần nhau trong tích môn, nhắm mắt nhìn mai sau. Trong 300 năm nữa, em đâu và tôi đâu? In 300 years from now, where will you be, my beloved? And where shall I be? The word where is not a good translation. It means that what will happen to me, what will happen to you in 300 years. 300 years is not a lot. Compare with the age of the earth, of the sun, of the cosmos, of the Milky Way. 300 years is just nothing. And yet, you can visualize yourself 300 years from now. You can visualize your beloved one. Life is very short. And you are getting angry at each other. You don't have the wisdom of impermanence. So when you close your eyes, you breathe in, and you visualize yourself 300 years from now, what you will become, where will you be, my beloved? It means what will become of you, my beloved, in 300 years. Dust, cloud, fog. And it does not take a lot of time to see her, to see him 300 years from now. And the insight of impermanence come to shine the light on you, and suddenly you know how precious she is for you in this very moment. Very quick, the meditation can bring the result very quickly. Maybe 3 or 4 seconds of visualization in the inside of impermanence. And when you have breathed in and breathed out, in and out, because there are only 4 lines, and the insight comes, and it helps you to see that how precious your presence is for her, and how precious her presence is for you. And you open your eye and you see her. The only thing you want to do at that moment is to open your arms in order to take him, take her into your arms. Darling, I know you are there, alive in this very moment. I'm very happy. And your anger just vanished. And that is the benefit of the concentration, the meditation on impermanence. The insight of impermanence help us to cherish the winter retreat, the deer park. We can savor, we can enjoy every moment, every single moment of the retreat. We can enjoy every step we make. The winter retreat is enjoyable. Deer park is enjoyable. Your presence is enjoyable. The presence of your beloved one is enjoyable. All are very precious, extremely precious. You don't take them for granted. You know that they are wonders of life. You know that all belong to the kingdom of heaven, of God. All belong to the Pure Land of Buddha. And you don't have to search for the kingdom elsewhere in the future. Because you just have the energy of mindfulness and concentration in order to touch the reality of impermanence. Last year I asked for a new passport. And from time to time you ask for a passport. Last year, since my passport expired, I asked for a passport. And when I received the passport, I see that the passport is valid for 10 years. I know that this is the last passport I need. And when I see that, I know that I can cherish every moment, every year. There are friends who say that, "Thầy, you have to come to the deer park every year for the winter retreat." People like chị Kim Chi, chị Hải, anh Tiến, they want that. They want deer park to be the main center of Thai's activity. Your village, second. And Sister Jen Kong said, but there are many countries there, dozens of European countries, they need us. Here is only one country. They were talking like that going on as the winter retreat is drawing to an end. And there was a brother who said, maybe Thầy will come to the deer park every 3 years. Another person said, Thầy will come to the deer park every 5 years. So there are many ideas. But considering that my passport has only 10 years, how many times I can come to the deer park for a winter retreat? 2 times or 1 time, who knows? There is only one thing that is certain. Thầy is here, now. That is the wisdom. Thầy is here, Thầy is now. And let us enjoy that and not to think too much about the future. And that is the Buddhist wisdom. The kingdom of God is in the here and the now. The Pure Land is in the here and the now. Let us learn, let us train ourselves to live deeply the present moment. In our daily life, we train ourselves in order to look at things like that. You look at your beloved one with the insight of impermanence. You look at the winter retreat at the eyes of impermanence. You look at your beloved one with the wisdom of impermanence. You look at the moon, you look at the star, you look at yourself with the eyes of impermanence. And the insight of impermanence can already bring you a lot of happiness and help you to avoid making a lot of mistakes. Without the insight of impermanence, you think that you believe that you are going to be there forever and your beloved one will be there forever. That's not true. You know, you are very intelligent, you know that is not true. And yet you live your daily life as if you believe that you will be there forever and your beloved one will be there forever. And if the insight of impermanence is alive, you know that anything you can do to make him happy today, you have to do. Tomorrow may be too late. Everything you do to make your beloved one happy today, do it today. Don't postpone it until tomorrow. And although we are young, we might die by an accident, by a kind of illness. We cannot say that, well, being young we have to do like other young people. We should not spend our time practicing. Well, we'll practice later on. That's not wise. Because you might not have a chance to practice before you die. And what is the purpose of practicing? The purpose of practicing is to enjoy every moment of your life. And that is why the very young people should practice in order not to waste their youth. And that is why in the time of the Buddha, so many young men and women joined the order, monastic orders. Because joining the monastic order, they are not looking for happiness in some distant future. Because the teaching of Buddha is to bring you happiness in the here and the now. And the insight on impermanence alone can already bring you a lot of wisdom and happiness and help you to avoid a lot of mistakes that the majority of us make every day. Contemplation on impermanence is a joyful note on the music of life. And when you have the insight of impermanence, you are not fooled anymore by the appearance. The appearance the image you perceive of reality, the lakshana, the tướng, cannot fool you anymore. Tướng is the object of your perception. The Chinese word for perception is tưởng. And this is the perception. The perception has two aspects, the perceiver and the perceive. And on this side we write this is the image you create in your perception. The whole thing is a perception. The whole thing is perception, and this part of the perception, the object of perception, is called tưởng. The sign, the image you got. You have an image of the deer park. You have an image of your beloved one. You have an image of yourself. And that is the object of your perception. And the Buddha said, where there is a perception, there is a, what is the word? Deception. Where there is a perception, there is a deception. Because it's deceiving you. The form deceive you. Like when you look at a cloud, the cloud has a form, and the cloud is deceiving you. Yeah. It's not exactly the cloud is deceiving you, but the image of the cloud that you have in your perception is deceiving you. You might think that before the cloud is there, it did not exist. And you might believe that one day the cloud is no longer there. Because you are caught by the sign, by the outer sign of the cloud. You don't see that before the cloud is what it looked like now. It has been the ocean, the water, the lake, the heat, the sunshine, the former life of the cloud. And thanks to impermanence, the water in the lake, in the ocean, and the heat have been able to manifest themselves in a new form, and that you perceive as a cloud. And since you are attached to the cloud, you are afraid that one day the cloud will disappear and will leave you alone, utterly alone. You don't know that a cloud can never die, can never disappear. A cloud can only be transformed into rain or ice or snow. So wherever there is a perception, there is a deception. Because you are deceived always by the object of your perception. The insight of impermanence helps you not to be fooled by the appearance. When you look at a cloud, you can see the snow, you can see the fog, you can see the ice, you can see the lake, you can see the ocean, you can see the sunshine. You can see things that other people cannot see because they don't have the eyes of wisdom. You can see the cloud in the past. You can see the cloud in the future. You don't see the cloud just in this present moment. And that is thanks to the wisdom of impermanence. Sư chú Pháp Hữu came when he was 7, first time, mấy tuổi? 8 years old. And now he is 60. You see, con đứng lên chút đi, đừng mắc cỡ. He came when he was 8, and now he is 16. And when I look at him, I can see him as a 6-year-old. And I can see him as a venerable Dharma teacher. Because I have the insight of impermanence. And I like to look at things with the insight of impermanence. Since I can see him as a 6-year-old boy, and since I can see him as a Dharma teacher, I am much closer to reality. And that is because I can touch his nature of impermanence. And that prevents me from making mistakes. And it helped me to not to be fooled by his appearance. Because when I look at him, I can see his father, his mother, his sister, and I can see myself in him. And thanks to the insight of impermanence. Now, if you are disturbed by the idea that in 10 years or less, Thầy will not be there, and that gives you not a pleasant feeling, the only way out is the insight of impermanence. And if you have the insight of impermanence, you have a chance to see that Thầy, it's not possible for Thầy to die. That Thầy is like a cloud, and it is impossible for a cloud to die. It means from something you become nothing at all. From someone you become no one at all. Because in your mind you think that, well, to die means from being you become non-being. From someone you become no one and you cry. If you look into the cloud, and if you can see the cloud in its nature of impermanence, you can see the cloud before it is born in the form of a cloud. You can see the cloud after it released the form of cloud. You don't have to cry about the cloud, the death. You cannot conceive the death of the cloud. The cloud will always be there for you, in one form or another. And our true nature is the nature of no birth and no death. The contemplations offered by the Buddha are very wonderful. If you are so busy, if you are caught up in your projects to get wealthy, to get famous, to get powerful, and then you don't have the time to enjoy this kind of practice. It is this kind of practice that brings you wisdom, that remove your fear, your despair, that make happiness, real happiness. Because real happiness, perfect happiness, cannot be possible without removing your fear, your attachment to forms. While I was holding the cup of tea, steaming, I saw things that you did not see. I saw hills in China with tea plants because I was in touch with the fragrance of the tea. And I was drinking my tea in mindfulness. That is why not only I can see the meditation hall and your presence in front of me, but I also saw the hills, rolling hills, full of tea plants in China. Yeah. You can see the tea in the present moment. You can see the tea elsewhere in the past. You can see the tea in the future. While I practice calligraphy, I like to pour some tea in the ink. Sometimes the ink gets a little bit too thick, and I pour some tea. And when you look at my calligraphy, you don't see the tea, but the tea is there. And the tea is there in many ways. Because before I do calligraphy, I like to have a cup of fragrant tea first. And a cup of fragrant tea will be helpful to make a better calligraphy. So the tea goes in the calligraphy in at least two ways. Into me and into the ink. And if you are attached to form, you cannot see that. And that is why the practice of Buddhist meditation includes visualization. That you are not fooled by the appearance in the here and the now only. You can see much deeper. You can see deep into the very nature of what is. You can touch the nature of no birth and no death of the cloud. You can touch the nature of no birth and no death of your beloved one and of yourself. By definition, impermanence means that things cannot remain the same forever, even in two consecutive moments. In Buddhism, people speak of two kinds of impermanence. Well, that's funny to say that there are two kinds of impermanence. But that is to help you to see clearer, a skillful means. The first kind of impermanence, we call it Shakna vô thường. Impermanence in every moment. You can see momentary impermanence. Impermanence happening in every moment, in every shana. Shakna vô thường. Shakna vô thường. We have to be able to see that impermanence is happening in every moment. And the cells in our body are impermanent. And every moment there are cells that die, and to make place for other cells to be born. Birth and death are taking place in every moment. Impermanence is taking place in every moment, momentary impermanence. And the other impermanence is called nhất kỳ vô thường. Nhất kỳ. You can translate it as cyclical impermanence. The kind of impermanence that is easier for you to perceive. When you boil the water get warm slowly, 1 degree, half a degree, 2 degree, and so on. And you cannot see it very clearly. But when it reaches 100 degree, there is a transformation from water into steam. You can see the steam coming up. So from water become steam. It's a kind of drastic change. You can see the difference of the form very, very clearly. If you live with the child 24 hours a day, and the child is with you many years, every day you see him or her several times, you don't feel that the child is growing. But if you go away for half a year or a year and you come back, you see the child has grown very big. It's more difficult to see momentary impermanence. And if you don't perceive impermanence taking place in every moment, then when the other kind of impermanence comes, you'll be shocked. You'll suffer. Usually when your child was very young, it's not too difficult to handle him or her. But when they come to the age of 13 or 14, well, it's not so easy anymore. A new cycle starts, and you have to recognize that your child is no longer a baby. Your child begins to think differently, to see things differently, and does not rely everything on you anymore. And you will not be shocked. You will not suffer. That is why in our practice, in our daily practice, we have to rely on our mindful breathing, mindful looking, in order to get in touch with the nature of impermanence, both in its momentary form and the cyclical form. When the cloud become the rain, we see a big difference in form. But if we have the insight of impermanence, we are not shocked. And we know that it's not exactly that the cloud is dying. The cloud is transforming herself into the snow or into the rain. And with the eyes of impermanence, with the eyes of the Buddha, you can still recognize your beloved cloud in the rain or in the snow. In fact, to be a cloud floating in the sky is very beautiful, is wonderful. But to become snow falling on the ground, it's also wonderful, it's also beautiful. And if you have that kind of eyes, you don't suffer. And the Buddha has that kind of eyes, the eyes that is not full by perceptions. Where there is a perception, there is a deception. That is why we have to learn how to perceive things. And if you learn, you know how to perceive things in the light of impermanence, your perception who is calling, good news or bad news? If we know how to look, to listen, to perceive things in the light of the wisdom of impermanence, it will not be fooled. And our perceptions will not be wrong perceptions, vọng tưởng. Suffering are born on wrong perceptions. The terrorists suffer because they have wrong perceptions on themselves and on their so-called enemies. The victims of terrorism suffer because they have wrong perception on themselves and they have wrong perceptions on the terrorist. And that is why, without trying to remove or to help each other removing wrong perceptions, terrorism will going to continue for a long time. Because everything, every suffering, every kind of suffering is born from wrong perceptions. Fear, despair, anger, they are all born from wrong perceptions. And the teaching of the Buddha, the practice offered by the Buddha is just to help us remove wrong perceptions. And the four contemplations offer you in the last four exercises are just for that. And it begins with the contemplation on impermanence, not the philosophy of impermanence, not the declaration on impermanence, not the statement about impermanence, but the practice of the samadhi, of a concentration called concentration on impermanence. It is an instrument, not a theory. The samadhi, the concentration of impermanence, is an instrument. When you dig the ground, when you want to dig a well for water, you need an instrument. You cannot just talk about the well and you have the well. You need an instrument to dig the soil. So the insight of impermanence, the wisdom on impermanence, need the instrument, need the samadhi, need the concentration on impermanence in order to be obtained. And that is why practitioners do not talk about impermanence, but they know how to use the samadhi, the concentration of impermanence, in order to get in touch and to bring about the insight of impermanence. It is the insight that can liberate us, and not the idea of impermanence. The idea of impermanence might help a little bit in the beginning, but the idea alone cannot liberate you. It should be the insight. The insight can only be got by the practice, by having an instrument. And that instrument, we know already, the meditation, the concentration on impermanence. And when you contemplate impermanence, you see a lot of things that other people cannot see. You see the past, you see the future, you see in depth. Logically speaking, anything that is impermanent will not have a separate self, a separate entity. Because impermanence means that you cannot remain the same thing in two consecutive moments. Nothing remains the same for a long time, forever. And that is why I believe that there is a self inside that remains the same self. There is a person inside the five elements that remain the same. That is also a wrong perception. And that is why if you accept impermanence as the truth, even that is only the idea of impermanence, you have to accept the idea of non-self. Because what does it mean as self? A self means an entity that remains the same forever. Right? There's something that remains itself forever. That is called itself. That self may be called a country or a person. You may call the country by a name. You may call that person a name. The name may remain the same, but reality pointed to by the name is a living reality. And the nature of that reality is impermanent. A country is something that is changing all the time. Politically speaking, economically speaking, culturally speaking, everything in the country is changing all the time. The America that I perceived in 1962 when I first came is no longer there. America now is quite different, quite different. 42 years, and not a lot. But America has undergone a lot of change, a lot of difference. And if you practice, the change will bring us into a better state of being. But if we don't know the practice, the change will be negative. I don't think Americans are now as happy as they were in '62. They are not as safe as they were in '62. And their country, the landscape are not as beautiful as they were in '62. The way we live our day, our daily life, the way we perceive things, the way we act and we react to the situation may help us to be more happy, to be happier, or may push us to be much more unhappy. In fact, America as a country is impermanent. And we as a person, we are impermanent. And based on that nature of impermanence, we can improve our state of being. Or we may suffer more than in the past. And that is why we have sovereignty over our situation, and the wisdom can intervene and bring about the kind of change that we wish. And everyone wish that by practicing, by having more wisdom, well, we become more freer, happier, more compassionate. And that is why we have come together in order to learn and to practice as a Sangha. The other day we spoke of attainment. There are 4 holy fruits that we aspire to attain. The first fruit is peaceful abiding. And the second fruit is arriving. Finding home. Nó về đất tới. The third fruit is interbeing, tương tức. And the fourth is no birth, no death. Washing. It is possible for us to practice in order to attain the first holy fruit, peaceful abiding. When you feel that that you don't need to run away anymore. That you can stay in one place in order to do something, to achieve something, to realize something. And that is the first holy fruit. Because you have been able to reduce the amount of agitation within yourself. And you have mastered somehow the habit and energy of going around and searching. You cannot sit peacefully, you cannot dwell peacefully in one place. And this is the precondition for all kind of success. And then with some peaceful abiding, you have the hope of attaining the fruit of I have arrived, I am home. That you find it gratifying, you find it wonderful to live in the here and the now, You don't need to run into the future or to another place in order to be happy. Happiness can be touched in the here and the now. And the amount of freedom, the amount of release you got when you attain to this fruit is huge already. And there are those of us who feel that we like to dwell in one place. You don't want to move around all the time. The image I use is a frog. You cannot force a frog to just stay in one place. You use a plate, you put the frog into the plate, and after a few minutes the frog will jump out. That is a Vietnamese image. Cóc bó vào dĩa, putting the frog into a plate. And then those of us who cannot stay in one place long enough in order to achieve something. You go to this community and you stay for some time and you cannot abide, and you think of going to another community, and all your life you go around. And the first holy truth, holy fruit is to obtain that peaceful abiding. And when you have arrived at this, attain this fruit, you have a chance to attain the second fruit, which is I have arrived, I'm home, I'm very comfortable in the here and the now. I can touch the wonders of life in me and around me, I'm happy. And when you touch this fruit, you attain this fruit, your peaceful abiding will be more vigorous. So there is the nature of interbeing between the two fruits. It's not my intention to explain the four fruits today, because I have done so in one Dhamma talk. It's my intention to ask the question, who is the one attaining the fruit if there is no self? And it has to do with impermanence. The insight of impermanence goes together with the insight of no self. It includes the insight of no self. It is the insight of no self. And if you have not seen the nature of no self, you have not seen the insight. You have not got the insight of impermanence. Because there are people who say that I can accept impermanence, but I cannot accept no self. To these people, it's very clear that they have not understood what is impermanent. They have not seen impermanence. Because if they have really seen impermanence, they can see at the same time the nature of no self. And if you really think that you have not understood no self, I can tell you that you have not understood impermanence. Because no self and impermanence are the same thing. Viewing it from the angle of time, you call it impermanence. But viewing it from the angle of space, you call it no self. And if you have not seen no self, you have not seen impermanence. Because logically speaking, impermanence means that there is nothing that remains the same in two consecutive moments. If you look into your country, you see the economy, the politics, the people, the happiness, the suffering, the violence, everything is changing. Only the name of your country does not change. So the nature of your country is no self. No permanent entity. There's no permanent entity. And when you look into your person, or the person of your beloved one, you see 5 elements: form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. There are 5 rivers always flowing, nothing remains the same. And you might imagine that behind these 5 elements there is a self. There is something permanent. That is an illusion. That is an illusion. Reality, whether it is physical, physiological, psychological, they are always changing. Your body changes, your feelings, your perceptions, everything is changing. There is nothing you can recognize as permanent. And that is why thinking of America as something permanent, always herself, is wrong. Thinking of Mr. Brown or Mr. Smith as someone that remains the same, that is an illusion. And that is why when I see Sư Chú Pháp Hữu, I can see him 5-year-old boy, a 16-year-old novice, and an excellent Dharma teacher. I am very close to the reality. I am not attached to a form, a specific form. And I am more able to recognize him in different kinds of forms. Formations and consciousness, like us. But thanks to the practice, he has liberated himself. And he has produced a lot of wisdom that has been transmitted to many generations of Buddhists. And we have profited from his wisdom, his methods. I don't know if you are a Christian, you can say that God is impermanent or not. But in Buddhism, we have the right to say that the Buddha, Shakyamuni, our teacher, is impermanent. He does not have a separate self. It's wonderful that the Buddha has no separate self. That is why we can be a Buddha also. We can be the continuation of the Buddha. The Buddha continues in me. The Buddha continues in you. It's wonderful to be a continuation of the Buddha. Don't you think so? And if you want, you can become a beautiful continuation of the Buddha. Every time you walk down the path, peacefully, happily, enjoying every step, you are a good continuation of the Buddha. If you enjoy it. For me, walking like a Buddha, something I can do. Breathing like a Buddha, that's something I can do. I enjoy being the continuation of the Buddha. And I want my friends to do the same. It's a joy, it's a pleasure to be the continuation of the Buddha, because the Buddha has no separate self. Buddha is made of non-Buddha elements. Buddhism is made of non-Buddhist elements. I can speak about Dharma using any kind of text. I can speak about Buddhism just using a table or a cloud or a cup of tea. Well, anything can become the Dharma. Dharma is made of non-Dharma elements. Flowers are made of non-flower elements. Buddhism is made of non-Buddhist elements. And Buddha is made of non-Buddha elements. And we have plenty of non-Buddha elements in us. And if we have the art, we can make all these non-Buddha elements into a Buddha, and we enjoy ourselves because we have Buddhahood. We have Buddhahood. That is why the contemplation on impermanence means the contemplation of no self. Because impermanence necessarily includes non-self. And we should learn, we should know that not having seen non-self, you have not seen impermanence in the context of Buddhism. That is impermanence in another philosophy or tradition, not Buddhism. In Buddhism, you have to see impermanence as non-self. And you don't need a self in order to attain the fruit of peaceful abiding. You don't need a self in order to attain the fruit of arriving and feeling home. When we say the rainfall, the wind blows, we used to speak like that. I'm aware, I think the wind is blowing. That's the way we used to talk. The wind who does not blow is not the wind. The rain that does not fall is not the rain. And yet, we always need a subject. We always need an actor in order for the action to take place. We believe that it is absolutely necessary for the action to take place with an actor. In the sentence, I think the wind is blowing, there are two couples. I is the subject and think is the, I think I is the actor and think is the action. And the wind is the actor which is doing the work of blowing. That is our way of thinking. Whether I think or I do not think, the wind is blowing anyway. So we can remove two words, the wind blows. But it's still wasting words. Because to say the wind is blowing is very funny. Because if it does not blow, it's not the wind at all. So why don't we remove? I just keep the wind. And in the word wind is included the act of blowing. It does not need an actor. There's something going on. That something that is going on is wind. It's winding. It's winding. Thinking is the same. There is a thinking going on. And you don't need a thinker. There's a feeling going on, and you don't need a thinker. There's a walking going on, and you don't need a walker. And yet, it's very deeply seated in us, the belief that there should be an actor in order for the action to take place, to be possible. There's a very well-known sentence in the Confucius Analect. Quân quân thần thần phù thù tử tử. Quân quân, it means the king, kings. The minister, the prime minister, ministers, the father, fathers, and the son, sons. That is a very old sentence in the Confucian scriptures. It means that if you are a king, you have to do the work of a king to be a real king. If you are a subject, you have to fulfill your duty as a subject, otherwise you are not a subject. If you are a father, you have to behave as a real father. And if you are a son, you have to behave as a son, otherwise you cannot be called a son. And this is the doctrine of chánh danh, means correcting the name to be the real name, make the name a reality. I don't know how to translate it. It's very simple. You call it by its true name. You call it by its true name. You call cloud, cloud. You call father, father. You call son, son. So every noun can be transformed into an act. And you don't need a subject in order for the action to take place. like the word house. It is a noun. But in America, we use the verb house as a verb, housing. This building can house many people. This house can house many people. So house become a verb. Man is a name, is a noun. But here we use it as a verb. The spacecraft is manned by so and so. So if you look deeply into it, you realize the truth of no self. That you don't really need an actor in order for the action to take place. We don't need an attainer for the fruit to be attained. And later on you understand what is non-attainment. You don't need a feeler in order for a feeling to take place. When anger manifests, you don't need someone in order to be angry. When you are enlightened, you don't need someone in order to be enlightened. Enlightenment just manifests itself. And this is a very deep truth that can be available to us, can be experienced by the practice of looking deeply. It is not in our habit of thinking, of seeing things. Because that habit of seeing things has brought to us a lot of misery, a lot of suffering. And that is why we want the truth. Because the truth liberates us. And that is why the meditation on non-self will be able to release us from a lot of suffering, from a lot of prisons of perceptions. There are four holy fruits, beginning the fruit of peaceful abiding, and then you have the fruit of arriving, and then you have a fruit of interbeing. You touch the truth of being. The inside of interbeing just manifests. You don't need a self in order to for the inside of impermanence to manifest. And you don't need a self in order to attain the ground of no birth and no death. The wisdom of no birth and no death manifests, and there is a liberation. There is a happiness. There is no non-fear. It's a very wonderful teaching. It's a very wonderful practice. It would be a pity if you come to a practice center and do not have a chance to learn about this teaching of the Buddha, the cream of the Buddhist teaching, beginning with the meditation on impermanence. I hope we can continue this on Sunday.